E-bikes are not created equal. There's e-bikes like this one, which look more or less like a regular bicycle. They have a tiny motor inside, and you still gotta pedal them. Then there's e-bikes like this one, which look like an electric moped. They go really fast, and you don't even have to pedal at all. To make matters even more complicated, the laws governing e-bike regulation are unclear, sometimes varying by state, city, and town. Now, that's a problem because people are buying a whole lot of these things. E-bikes are the fastest selling form of transportation, outselling electric cars, not to mention regular bicycles. As e-bikes fill our streets, local governments are scrambling with how to regulate these things, and even in some cases, banning them outright. And as e-bike casualties and accidents surge, it sparked a fierce debate over the legality of these devices and who should be able to use them.
Remember how I said not all e-bikes are created equal? Well, that's true. Most states have adopted what is called the three-class system, which was created by People for Bikes, which is a national bike advocacy group. Most e-bikes are referred to as Class 1. These are pedal assist bikes. There is no throttle, and the electric speed is limited to 20 miles per hour. These are almost indistinguishable from a regular bicycle, except for the extra oomph you get when pedaling. Then there are Class 2 e-bikes, which are throttle assisted, meaning you don't even need to pedal at all, but they're still limited to an electric speed of 20 miles per hour. These bikes are typically a bit bulkier with larger batteries. Class 3 is the fastest class, but it takes away the throttle and is pedal assist only with an electric speed limit of 28 miles per hour. In People for Bikes model, which has been adopted by more than 30 states, e-bikes are limited to 1 horsepower or 750 watts. But the problem is that not all bike manufacturers or local governments abide by the People for Bikes three-class system. See, in the world of bikes, there's the retail dealership network and there's the direct-to-consumer online network. If you go to your local bike shop, chances are you'll find a bike from a big-name manufacturer like Trek, Giant, or Specialized. These brands have long been mainstays in the dealership network. These bike manufacturers, for the most part, have adopted People for Bikes three-class system and are actually ahead of the curve on safety regulations when it comes to speed and batteries. Then there's online bikes or direct-to-consumer bikes. Chances are you've seen ads for these online, and they populate many of the best of lists that you'll find searching Google reviews. That's because these manufacturers are often in the business of affiliate marketing and pay out commissions to people who review them. Brands like Super 73, Juiced Bikes, or Ride One Up are all examples of direct-to-consumer online bike manufacturers. And to make things even more confusing, some bike manufacturers have defined their own three-class systems. Take Juiced Bikes, for example. Now, to their credit, they do a nice job of outlining the current bike regulations and even include People for Bikes three-class model. But then they say that all of their Class 3 e-bikes come with throttle assist, which is not what's defined as a Class 3 e-bike by People for Bikes, which says that a Class 3 e-bike should not have a throttle. Then there's the issue of manufacturing and maintenance. Most bikes from your local bike shop, from these dealership networks that have been in place for years, from big name manufacturers, have higher quality assurance and safety testing than what you'd find online. They're generally built with better components and tend to have better warranty and support when it comes to routine maintenance. If something breaks, you can usually take it in and get it fixed where you bought it. Most online e-bikes are made in China and white labeled by direct-to-consumer brands. They tend to have lower quality components and don't come with the same warranty and support that you'd get from a bigger brand name manufacturer. In fact, many local bike shops won't even touch these online e-bikes because they don't trust them. So if something breaks down, oftentimes you're on your own and you gotta fix it yourself. Yet these online e-bikes are incredibly popular for two main reasons. One, they're cheap, and two, they're heavily advertised online. You can buy a decently powered e-bike online for only a few $100, but if you walk into your local bike shop, brand name bikes tend to start at around $1,000 or more. That's a significant cost saving to the consumer who likely isn't aware of safety and regulation concerns. They just want a bike. Cost is a big reason why online e-bikes are so popular among commuters and delivery drivers. In New York City, e-bike usage has exploded, and so have their batteries, quite literally. New York City experienced a rash of fires caused by online e-bike batteries catching fire and exploding. Several people died and many more were critically injured. This led to the city cracking down on battery standards for e-bikes. Now all e-bikes in New York City must comply with a safety standard known as UL 2849. Bikes that meet this safety standard must display a holographic UL badge that they've been certified. Although battery fires make headlines, the far greater concern is e-bike accidents. From 2017 to 2022, there were over 300,000 emergency department visits in the US related to micromobility devices, including e-scooters and e-bikes. And nearly half of all e-bike injuries during that time occurred in 2022 alone. Furthermore, children under the age of 14 accounted for over a third of all these injuries. The safety question at the top of everyone's mind right now is where should e-bikes be allowed and who should be able to ride them? Most cities allow e-bikes to be used anywhere a traditional bike is allowed and limit speeds to 20 to 25 miles per hour. And I think this is a good first step, but practically speaking, it's really difficult to enforce e-bike regulations and speed limits at the local level. And this goes back to my point that not all e-bikes are created equal. Some go faster than others. Some are indistinguishable from regular bikes. And some use shoddy components and batteries that are more likely to catch on fire and explode. The only way to enforce existing e-bike laws is to catch people speeding or stop and inspect every e-bike on the street. Neither of which is practical so long as a gray market exists online for e-bikes that fall outside of regulations. New York City has actually subsidized a trade-in program for banned e-bikes, where they'll swap out an e-bike that doesn't meet safety standards and regulations with one that does. But this program is likely to cost the city millions, which is something that most cities just can't afford. Bikes have long been touted as an equitable form of transportation, and with e-bikes, that opportunity grows as people with physical disabilities are able to use them who otherwise wouldn't be able to propel themselves on their own. Yet many streets and trails are banning them, citing congestion and safety as primary concerns. On the surface, it can play out like an argument between old heads and new riders, and both sides can make some compelling arguments. For one, e-bikes bring more riders to streets and trails and are capable of speeds much higher than that of traditional bicycles. This can lead to congestion and present injury risks, especially when the bike infrastructure in most American cities is severely lacking. On the other hand, a decision to ride an e-bike is often the decision not to drive a car. More e-bikes means less cars on the road, less traffic overall, and fewer emissions. E-bikes also allow riders who otherwise wouldn't be able to explore certain nature trails and areas to use them. Whether or not they actually cause more damage to trails and ecosystems than regular bikes do is up for debate. And this is where I'll share my opinion as a cyclist and as an e-bike rider. E-bikes are the future. They're already here and they've already introduced millions of new riders to biking, which is hugely beneficial to our health and society. I think and I hope that most of the issues we're seeing now with e-bikes are going to get sorted out in the next few years as ridership becomes more commonplace throughout our cities. I do think we need e-bike laws at the national level to regulate the sale of e-bikes to meet specific safety standards, like New York City is doing. But above all else, the most important issue to me by far, and this is shared with bikes in general, is bike infrastructure and education. Many cities still don't have designated lanes or streets where it's safe to ride a bike and lack public outreach and education programs when it comes to cycling. We need to make things safer for our kids who are getting injured on e-bikes at a far greater rate than adults. I personally would be in favor of a new class of e-bikes, Class C, let's call it, for children, which would limit speeds to maybe 10 miles per hour under the age of 14. I'm no expert, and these are just suggestions, but I do think we need some common sense regulation when it comes to e-bikes. If you have an e-bike or are considering buying one, I highly recommend checking out People for Bike's website, which has some great educational resources when it comes to bike safety and regulations. And I highly encourage you to check out your local bike shop and make sure that the bike you're purchasing will be able to be maintained and serviced in your area so that you're not left fixing it yourself. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about e-bike regulations and safety standards. I'd also love to hear if your city or town or wherever you ride has e-bike regulations and bike infrastructure in place, and what you'd like to see changed. Thanks for watching.